How we doing, guys? Welcome back to the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. On this episode, we are going all the way in on our Week 15 NFL predictions. Pivotal week. A lot of playoff implications on the line, a lot of seedings, a lot of division situations on the line. With me, my good friend, Mr. Mike Zappy. How you doing, dude?
Doing pretty good, man. Just getting ready for the Christmas holidays. Kids are about done with school for the year, so everything going pretty well.
Yeah, man. It's gone so quick this year in general, this football season, all of it. Time is just moving. Time just continues to move rather quickly.
That's what happens every year during football season.
And you know what else moves quickly? When you have to play on a Thursday and you just got done playing yesterday. Just to let the viewers know, this is a pre-recorded episode, and we are currently doing this on Monday. This is Monday, December 12th. We've got the 49ers starting the week off in Seattle, Thursday night football, huge game. 49ers have a chance to pretty much put this division away with a victory. What's on the line for the Seahawks? After coming off a very disappointing loss to the Carolina Panthers, they are trying to keep pace with the New York Giants at 7, currently the Washington Commanders at 6. Niners looked rather impressive on Sunday with their victory, whereas the Seahawks came out very flat and, in my opinion, were just outplayed by a hungrier Carolina team. It's a get-right game, essentially, for the Seahawks, or at least it should be, in the sense that you would have to think, given the division rivalry and what's at stake, the Seahawks are going to have to come out swinging. I expect them to play better, but I still like the Niners. I think the Niners are just the better team. And this is a golden opportunity for the Niners to really separate themselves in this division, as well as have an opportunity to chase the 2 seed. So, huge game for both teams, but I'm going to go with consistency over desperation. And right now, I feel that the San Francisco 49ers are a more consistent team. Even without the services of Deebo Samuel, he will not be playing this week. Catcher Christian Vasquez and the Twins agreed to a 3-year deal. Just wanted to report that real quick. It's not a baseball episode, but I had to let you know. Again, this will be very old news because it is Monday and this is a pre-record. But look for that on our page. I will probably post that in the near future. For the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker looks like he is trending in the right direction to make a start. He was not available in their most recent game yesterday against Carolina. I'm looking for the 49ers to do what they do best, which is low-risk, high-efficiency offense and to play stingy defense. I do expect Seattle to give them a good shot. I'm going to go 49ers 30, Seahawks 24. I got the Seahawks losing by the same score in 2 consecutive weeks.
So there's a lot with this game, obviously. There's not implications that much on San Francisco's side, with the exception of they're still battling for the number 2 seed. Whereas Seattle, they're battling to still stay in playoff contention, also not allow Detroit to catch up to them, so on and so forth. I like Seattle in this game, and the reason why is because Pete Carroll has shown year in and year out that he knows how to coach a properly coached game, very well executed game by his team against San Francisco, which they have done year in and year out over the last 3 years. San Francisco did win the first meeting this year, but I think Seattle was still in the process of discovering their identity, figuring out who they were, that type of thing, San Francisco, they've looked good with Brock Purdy as their quarterback. However, this is going to be his first exposure to a division game in what some people consider the hardest place to play, with the 12th man in Seattle. That's a huge reason why I give this edge to Seattle. If Jimmy G was still out there, then I would think the 49ers had a much better chance. But because of the big game implications, national TV, Thursday night football, I say national TV, but everyone knows Amazon Prime. but it's a Thursday night football game, and Seattle just needs it a little more. I'm looking for them to put the pressure on Brock Purdy. I'm looking at that's going to be the difference. They're not going to have Deebo Samuel, so that is a huge weapon you're taking out of that offense as well, and that's too much to put on the legs of Christian McCaffrey only. Brock Purdy is going to have to make more than be a game manager type of quarterback this week. He's going to have to make some big plays, and I just don't think he's going to be able to do it so I have Seattle winning this game. A close one as well, 27-24. Difference being just the home field, I think, is going to play a lot into Seattle's favor this week.
You made a mention how one of the tougher places to play in the league, and while I don't discount what the 12th man brings to that organization on the fan level, when I look at the losses to the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers in that building, I can't necessarily say that I'm all the way buying that 12th man having that kind of an effect. I do expect that they'll be a little more rambunctious and just a little more fired up because it is the 49ers.
And that's why I go back to the 12th
have
man.
An excellent rivalry. I said this off air. The 49ers have shown a great deal of consistency since getting off to their little bit of a slow start. When Christian McCaffrey came over, they were hovering just a little over 500. They have just been winning consistently, quietly, and quite frankly, they expect to. And this is the third quarterback playing right now for the 49ers this season. They started with Trey Lance as a starter, Jimmy Garoppolo, who has not been ruled out for the season just yet, and now it's Brock Purdy. And then I look at what they just did. 35-7 drubbing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, I like the Niners, but this is going to be very good.
I meant to ask you, does that say more about how bad Tampa Bay is playing right now? Because, I mean, with the exception of a late 3-minute heroics by Tom Brady, they haven't exactly been playing great football the last few weeks.
No, I'll be the first.
Not to take anything away from the 49ers.
But when you step on their neck, you step on their neck. I mean, you know as well as anybody that even against bad teams, it's not always easy to step on their neck. The Texans is a good example. Sometimes you hang around that you're like, why did this or how did this happen? The Eagles struggled to put away Indy, and it may have woke them up because they've been killing everybody since that game for the most part. But yeah, we disagree on this one, and this is going to be one of the absolute best games to watch this coming week, which is a great way to open it up. We've also got Saturday games for the first time this season. We've got the Colts visiting the Minnesota Vikings, the Ravens at the Browns, and the Dolphins at the Bills. The Bills could essentially wrap up the East. I'm going to start with the Buffalo game and work it back. Miami Dolphins coming off a tough loss yesterday to the Los Angeles, almost said San Diego, to the Los Angeles Chargers. On our most recent show, I made a mention how I was not pleased with some of the play calling from Mike McDaniel. I feel that they were forcing the passing game a little too much, and they weren't able to get out of that predictable nature. And when you had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both kind of dinged up, I don't think they did themselves any favors. Now you're going into rather inclement weather against a team coming off of a very physical victory over another division rival, the Jets. And this is a game, a rematch, I should say, where I think Miami got rather lucky in that game with the way a lot of events played out at the end. I like the Bills, and I'll be honest, with the Hill injury and with Miami just starting to lose a little steam, they could be facing a bit of a losing streak here now. 3-game losing streak they're looking at, and also potential to slide out of the wild card if they continue to lose. I like Buffalo, and I don't think they're going to have all that difficult of a time. I'm going Buffalo 34, Miami 20. I think the Bills' defense is going to show out in this game. I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to have a rough time on the road. And I like the home team in rather convincing fashion.
Yeah, this game just has a lot in the making for a very, very bad game for Miami altogether. First, we can start off with the weather. Like you said, they're expecting 4 to 7 inches of snow this weekend at a minimum. So you know that's going to go into effect. And then we could talk about Buffalo. Technically they'll be three up on the division if they win this game. They wrap the division up this weekend. Let's just put it that way. You know,
We're doing a show. I thought maybe I should put my headphones in at the 10-minute mark.
hey, that's always a good thing. But yeah, I just think Buffalo is going to come out on top. I think everything is working against Miami right now, moving forward. So I think Miami is, like you said, they're now witnessing the other end, and they're witnessing what happens when you eliminate the run out of Miami's offense, and it puts more on Tua. That offense is not that good. So this is
The
not
other issue,
exactly a
like I said, is the health of his two main guns, who are not 100% right now.
yeah. There's just too much right now, and we're in a position where we're seeing the Jets fall out, and we could very well see Miami fall out. And then, depending on what happens tonight between New England and Arizona, and what happens next week with New England, we could see three AFC East teams that we're talking about falling out altogether, with other teams slowly creeping up. So I got Buffalo winning this one as well. I don't have it as high scoring. I have it 24-10. I think the weather will play a big major factor in that, but I think it's going to be an easy game for Josh Allen and company. Ravens and Browns, we're still waiting on Deshaun Watson to show up. Again, it was 700 days between his last game to last week, and the rust is clearly there, as well as the mental aspect, dealing with the fans and all that. Baltimore, as of late, they really have not convinced anyone. You cannot tell me that scoring 16 points in victory, or 10 points in victory, is really convincing you that you're a team to be a threat in the playoffs. No, not at all. This team has more questions than they have answers right now, whether it is Huntley or Lamar Jackson. We talked about it. I think what this is doing is this is hurting Lamar Jackson's chances of getting that next contract with the Baltimore Ravens. As I said earlier, I want to see the Jets go after him. So yeah, I think the Browns can pull this one out. I think it's going to be a close game, low scoring. Um, you know, the Bengals are there to take over the division, and this kind of seems like the week that where the Ravens get their first division loss. The Bengals have been riding very high, following the arm of Joe Burrow. I mean, yeah, I think the Browns will pull off the upset on this one, and then the last one, the Vikings one. That game's going to have a lot more to go for it, especially if the 49ers win. If we see a 49er victory and then the Vikings have to now come in and they have to win, more pressure on them. But lucky for them, they are playing the Jeff Saturday Colts. So either way, it's really hard for me to find the upset in them, whether the 49ers win or lose. I think the Vikings will pull it off in this game. I see them winning the game 27-13.
I'm with you with the Vikings. Actually, I'm taking the identical score. I love that score. 27-13. I'm going to completely be in agreement with you on that. As far as the Browns and Ravens go, I like the current Browns to beat the former Browns. And I'm going to go with a final of Cleveland 24, Baltimore 16. I think Cleveland is going to be in control for most of the game, and I think Baltimore is going to have some issues taking care of the football. And I also think they're going to have some issues slowing down the run. I think Nick Chubb's going to have a big game. And while we're on the subject of the Ravens, we'll talk about the team that they're tied with, the Cincinnati Bengals heading into Tampa. Buccaneers coming off a real beatdown at the hands of the 49ers, and it doesn't get much easier. The thing that I've liked about what I'm seeing from the Bengals lately is that the offense is getting more diversified. And why is that? It's because they're protecting Joe Burrow a little bit better. And it's because they're run blocking a little better for Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, and others that are going to be in the mix. Joe Mixon's been dinged up as of late. But the point to be made is this Bengals team is starting to get that confidence. Jamar Chase is playing at a very high level. I expect Tampa to play better than they did in their last game. I do think that this has the ability to turn into a bit of a shootout between the two excellent quarterbacks. But in the end, the Bengals are the better team, and in the end, the Bengals are going to win this game. I'm going Bengals 30, Buccaneers 27. I think Tampa puts up a spirited effort, but they fall short at home.
It's a nice point spread you gave the the Buccaneers there, because I can't remember the last time they scored that many points, if at all, this year. Oh, I know they did against the Saints. Anyways, getting sidetracked here. Um, I like the Bengals, man. The Bengals are just they're playing much better football right now.
If
The
this game was in
Buccaneers,
Cincy, I would have it a little wider.
yeah, I 100% agree with that. The Buccaneers are, as crazy it is to say it is, they're fighting to save their season right now. And, when you come off an embarrassing loss of 35-7 against the 49ers, I don't care if it was in San Francisco or in Tampa, you're supposed to be a playoff team. You need to be showing much better performances than what was on
Only
display
2 years
yesterday.
removed from winning a Super Bowl, and it looks like it's 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I put a lot of that on the fact that Bruce Arians is not the man as the head coach. And we talked about it, how it's Todd Bowles when it should have probably been Byron Leftwich. Whether it's setting up for him to take over after this year, that's to be determined. However, going back to this game, you just look for reasons, get some sort of reason to think that the Buccaneers can pull this game off, and I can't find them. Yeah, they have a pretty decent defense that hasn't really been showing out as of late. You could always say, well, they have TB12 under center, and whenever you have him under center, you always have a chance, which is still true. But whenever you don't have the support of a running game from Leonard Fournette, and your receivers aren't exactly performing at the level we know them to have performed at in the past, it spells for trouble. And you have Carolina, Atlanta, and the Saints all creeping on you right now. I've got the Bengals winning this game. I just like with their offensive line how it's playing as of late. Their defense has been playing very well, to be able to shut down Patrick Mahomes and come out with the victory in that one. That was a big win for them. Yeah, I think the Bengals will come out on top. I think it'll be a slightly lower scoring game, 24-20 Cincinnati. Joe Burrow will have himself 3 touchdown passes, while the running game will do its part, but not to a very high tune. I think they'll break 100 as a team, but it'll be the arm of Joe Burrow the reason why they come out on top on this one.
Yeah, we're in agreement. Bengals for the road dub and to take over first place. Heading back to this game, I'm kind of flying around the geographical board trying to keep the divisions together. We got the New York Jets hosting the Detroit Lions, two teams that are on the outside looking in right now of their respective conferences, playoff brackets. I know off air we disagreed, so this will be interesting as to explain why and why not. I'll tell you why I think the Jets are going to win. I think that they've been close to winning their last couple of games, and I really believe that in this particular game, they're going to hone in on Jared Goff. I want to make a mention that Jared Goff does not play as well outdoors as he does in Ford Field. I do think that's a factor here. And it's tough to fling the ball around and play that kind of game in the Meadowlands. Now, I understand that the Detroit Lions did a rather good job of that against my New York Giants roughly a month ago. But I will say this. The Jets are a tougher team and a tougher defense than the Giants. And I think they're a little bit ahead of the Giants right now, regardless of who ends up in the playoffs and who doesn't, two different conferences. I'm going to say that my vote for Coach of the Year gets his guys ready, gets his guys prepared, and makes sure that they avoid a 3-game losing streak. And this loss will essentially make it close to impossible for the Lions to make the playoffs this year, although they should be proud of themselves for getting back into the race, and they have a nice little future ahead of them. Jets for the win. I'm going 24-20.
I'm going to stir the pot just for you, because you already know where I'm going with Sunday night's game. And Detroit's playing some good football, man. Chicago. The Jets need to be on high alert for this game. You cannot think that the Lions are going to come in and, the Jets are playing good defense, so we'll shut them down. Sauce Gardner is going to be following Amon-Ra St. Brown around the field.
Good matchup.
But we still have to consider who's going to – DJ Chark has been playing pretty good for them. And the Lions offense is still a good offensive unit, as to why they're sticking with Jared Goff for next year as well. And I think they might be sticking with him for a couple of years more. Because
I feel that he's earned that.
He's more than earned that opportunity. And really, you can credit their losses to earlier this year to bad defensive play, which has improved greatly. where if this team won just one or two more of their games earlier this year that they should have won.
The Minnesota game stands out to me as one that they really let get away.
Yeah, and it's, this team, I don't want to say it's too little too late because they're still there, but it's really hard for me to find a game out of their last four that they're not going to be favored in. Vegas opened up the book for this week as even. I think when it's all said and done, the Lions will be favorites in this game, even though they're playing in New York. I think the Lions are the better team right now. I trust them more with the better quarterback. Jets do have the better defense, but I think it's going to be the Lions. I think the Lions are going to come in. They're going to one hard-fought victory, and I think that the lack of quarterback play for the New York Jets is going to be the difference. Mike White will have his chances, but he will not be able to get it done yet again. And whenever you don't have a quarterback, that usually leads to the reasons why you lose these close games like we've seen them do the last couple of weeks. Lions win 27-17, go to 500, and put the pressure on the rest of the NFC.
All right. Speaking of the NFC, we're going to talk about the team that is currently in the one slot. Philadelphia Eagles making a trip to Soldier Field to take on the 3-10 Chicago Bears. Eagles are 12-1. This is a game that you've said for weeks and weeks and weeks that you think the Bears are going to win. With all due respect, I think you're out of your mind. I don't know if you've changed or lightened your opinion on that after the drubbing that the Eagles put on the Giants yesterday, or if that even has any bearing on it. I will say this. I think the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields can make some plays to make this game interesting, at least in the first half. But in the second half, I expect the Eagles to pull away for good. I think the Bears are going to play some inspired football early. I will say that much. I could see them playing some inspired football early. Field conditions, I imagine, are not going to be the most pleasant. But when I think about what the Eagles do well, they run the ball with high efficiency. And their quarterback is one of the spearheads of that rushing attack. Justin Fields also does a very good job of running the football, but I don't see the Bears O-line standing up to the Eagles D-line, their front seven. And I think Justin Fields is going to be forced into making a couple of uncomfortable mistakes. I could see this thing being like 17-17 at the half, 17-14, something like that, close. Second half, Eagles turn it on to a different gear. I'm going to go Eagles 38, Bears 23.
Wow, your score is actually pretty close to mine, but not really. So when I was saying that in regards to Philly, that was going back to their showing they had against the Colts.
They were having that little struggle.
Yeah, they were having that little struggle. But again, this is also the game where this is not going to be no pushover game. I'm actually expecting a higher scoring game because, quite frankly, no one has been able to stop the Bears running game because it's really hard to contain Justin Fields. And David Montgomery, he's been having himself a great season this year as well. So I'm expecting a very good game. I actually have it similar. I think it's going to go into halftime tied, 17-17, 21-21 type of score. I just think the Eagles are the better team. It pings me to say that. It has pinged me to say that all year long.
I get it, dude.
No, I think it's going to be a tough game for Philly as well, just because they're going to score, but then the Bears will also answer it with scores. I can't see Philly stopping their run game entirely. I think the difference in the game is going to be because of Jalen Hurts' arm to be able to move down the field when he needs to. I think Philly will break away late. I believe they will win this game 38-27 and, continue their quest for the number one seed and setting up a beautiful Christmas Eve date coming off a victory like that to what would be to secure the division and the number one seed in the NFC playoffs against Dallas on Christmas Eve.
Before we speak about Dallas, I'm going to let the viewers take a look at our other games. Less notables. Those are some of my scores. Give that a couple of times to turn over. No reason to rush and hone in.
Yeah, it's fun because you look at the Falcons. I don't want to say they've mailed in the season, but announcing today that Desmond Ridder is going to be their starting quarterback moving forward,
Yeah, they mailed it in, dude. Carolina is the only team that has a chance to truly catch Tampa.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And Carolina has the best offense out of those three other teams, really,
I
right
beg
now.
to
And
agree. And that's why I got them winning a close one against Pittsburgh. Also, keep in mind, Mitchell Trubisky is quarterbacking the Steelers now.
right with Kenny Pickett coming off or on concussion protocol currently.
He may be back in time, but either way, I like Carolina in that one. And come to think of it, I don't like that score that I put up. We fix that.
Yeah, and as far as the other games go, it's kind of we're starting to see all the teams separate themselves. There's a few meaningless games on here, draft positioning, things like that. And then Monday Night Football, when this game was announced, it was one of the games to look forward to this season. And
Oh,
now
for sure.
it's kind of like, oh, I'll just go do some more Christmas shopping instead on Monday
Do
night.
the mulch.
Yeah, go.
The best, the two, the reason why I even put the Titans and Chargers in here is nothing against the Chargers. I think the Titans have really flunked out. And similar to Tampa Bay in the NFC, the Titans will represent that division in the playoffs, but I think this is the end of an era for the Mike Vrabel-led Tennessee Titans as being the beast in that division, because I think going into next year, those Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be taking a big step, and that is who you have on your schedule. Coming up soon, this Sunday, Dallas Cowboys making a trip to Duval, taking on a much improved Jacksonville Jaguars team that is starting to take on the identity of their head coach. We both agreed on air, off air, over the course of the season that it was only a matter of time until Doug Peterson started putting his prints on this team. And it starts with the quarterback position. And Trevor Lawrence is playing at a much higher level. And I got to give him credit. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but shout out to former Giants tight end Evan Ingram coming off a career day.
Man.
This is not going to be an easy game for the Cowboys. I'll put it to you like that. I think Jacksonville's going to be more than willing and ready to play.
It's funny you say that because Evan Ingram is my tight end in my other league that I still finished first in, but I ended up sitting him because I was not expecting him to have a game, and I don't
ever expect him to have a game.
Yeah, and then
watching that since God.
Yeah, and then to see him go off for 11 catches, 2 touchdowns, and
well, you know what? Good for him. I wish the kid no bad. I was just so frustrated and knew that I think it was best for the Giants and for him to just each have a new start.
Correct. And this game is very interesting because I don't necessarily want to know if I want to give the division to the Titans quite yet, because if they lose this week, and
you're insinuating that it could get a little interesting.
It gets very interesting because the Jaguars are then a game out of first place. The Jaguars have been playing much better football as of late. As you said, they've bought
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Are they done playing the Titans this year? They split, right? I believe Tennessee beat them up in Jacksonville early in the year.
They lost to Jacksonville earlier in the year. They play at Jacksonville the final week of the season.
Oh, so they haven't played twice.
Correct. And Jacksonville has the tiebreaker right now.
Man, wouldn't that be something? The Jaguars winning the division, I mean, they're the only team that lost to the Texans.
Yeah. So, there's a lot to look into this game. I actually feel bad for the Jaguars because I think the Jaguars were hoping to catch Dallas the way Houston just caught them.
Right, and you kind of beat me to the point. I think that's the reason why they're not going to surprise Dallas. I think they're going to compete, though. I will say that much.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a competitive game. On this one, it's going to be more of you're seeing a quarterback that is in his 7th year in the league, that is leading his team to the playoffs, versus a young quarterback that is making the late surge, but is clearly preparing for next season.
Absolutely.
Because this Jaguars team is going to be a definite team to watch out for next year. I'm
going to go on record and say that they're my favorite for that division going into the new year. As this goes, I still think the Dallas Cowboys are going to do a decent job of being able to run the football and get things done. I think they're going to be able to, when it counts most, put Jacksonville in third and not so favorable. And because of that reason, I am picking, because of that, I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this thing. I'm going to go 30-23.
Ooh, I like that score. Yeah, I'm expecting the Cowboys team to come out a little more focused. I'm expecting
Absolutely.
their defense to come out and make noise this week. The way the defense played yesterday, they seemed very flat. They weren't able to get pressure on the quarterback. Just the entire game seemed off. And we already alluded to that in our last episode, talking about how that fumble by Turpin seemed to turn the switch off for this
Yeah,
team.
it swung the momentum in a bad way.
But as far as this week's go, yeah, I'm expecting another big day by Tony Pollard. I'm expecting Dak to have himself a bounce back game, and it's crazy to say a bounce back game, but fact is, this past week he didn't have himself the greatest game. So Dallas will go into Jacksonville. They will face a team that wants to win. Doug Peterson does know this Dallas Cowboys team very well from his time in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. And that's another reason I think it's going to be nice and competitive.
Yeah, I think it will be too. However, the one big thing is Dallas cannot, I repeat, cannot get off to another late start. And they drove down the field opening drive, and after that, they turned off for a while. They have to get on them early and often, get Trevor Lawrence out of his rhythm, and that's what I fully expect them to do. I think they'll come out on top, 34-24, and
Close to
pull
my
away
final.
in the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Final game of the week, we've got the New York Giants visiting the Washington Commanders. And to put it bluntly, this is essentially the New York Giants' schedule, the most important game on their schedule. This is their season in terms of it all. Two teams that tied 2 weeks ago, both 7-5-1. Keys to victory for each team. First of all, the Commanders may be getting a returning Chase Young, which is going to be huge. As far as keys to victory, I think the Commanders have to be able to run the ball and keep Taylor Heineke in third and rather manageable. Also, getting the ball into the hands of their best player, which is Terry McLaurin. I believe that the Giants are going to have to really come down to a team effort to hone in on Terry McLaurin and to do their best to avoid having him have a blow-up game. In the first meeting, the Giants did a really good job of getting to Taylor Heineke. I believe that we will see more of that. I think the Giants are going to have success this week in places where they didn't against Philly, where, quite frankly, they just weren't able to penetrate Philly's offensive line and get to Jalen Hurts. This is a different opponent, a good one nonetheless, but I do think the Giants are going to do a better job of getting to Taylor Heineke. My final is almost identical to the final that I predicted 2 weeks ago when these teams played the first time. This time, I'm giving the Giants one more point, and I'm putting Washington on the same amount of points that they had last time. Last time they were in a 20-20 tie. This time, I'm going Giants 24, Washington Commanders 20. This is going to be a real gut check, season-saving situation for the New York Giants. And I believe that this is the game that propels them into the playoffs. A reward for having a great start. And these are all part of growing pains, overcoming slumps. The Giants need this one just as bad as the Commanders do. I just think the Giants are going to be a little more up to the task because I have a strong belief and faith in my coaching staff. 24-20 Giants. That would propel them into the sixth. Having said that, I'm going to say one other thing about this game. I think both these teams are going to the playoffs.
I could hear the pain in your voice talking about this week's game, trying to convince yourself. And you did a good job. You did. I'm just kidding.
I believe in it.
I don't. I believe more in Washington. I believe more in their defensive front that will be the difference in this game. It's really weird that you went with the same score that I'm going with, except the same thing as last time. You went 23-20. I went 23-20. It ended up in a tie. I was going to go 24-20, but now I'm like, I don't want to see another tie. So I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to go 24-19. But Washington will win this game.
How do we end up with 19? Graham Gano misses an extra point?
You're going to get 4 field goals and 1 touchdown.
Damn it. It's going to be tight. it's going to be a one-possession game with the exception of losses to Detroit and Philly. Most of our games are one-possession games. We did a great job early on in the year of winning these close games. We failed against these guys last time, had an opportunity, multiple opportunities to win, didn't get it done, had to settle for the tie. I think that's very fresh in the minds of the Giants, and I do wholeheartedly believe that this is the game that they're going to come together as a team and really demand something from each another, and they're going to find a way to pull this off.
Yeah, it's you got to tip your hat off to both teams. They're both going to come out fighting. They both know what's at stake.
It's going to be a classic game.
Classic.
And the Giants are on prime time where they haven't done too well, but after the embarrassment and some people chirping on social media and I think this is some of the bulletin board material the Giants need. Hearing about, they don't belong on prime time. They're not that good. They kind of suck. They're overrated, blah, blah, blah. All of which may very well be true because, at the end of the day, they are ahead of schedule and they have overachieved. But this is a game that playoff teams are supposed to win. And I do want to say one thing. Daniel Jones has quite the record against the Washington Commanders, Redskins, and football team.
That's crazy because Washington, I have them winning. If they win this game, I'm going to go back and play for everybody our NFC East predictions.
Yeah.
And it lines me up perfectly with where I predicted Washington and how I said they would be a playoff team. And y'all laughed at me. But
I do want to make a mention of this. If the Giants intend on pulling the upset, as of right now, Vegas has them as 4.5-point dogs. They're going to have to clean up a lot of what's been happening on the O-line. And like I said, I thought they did a decent job in their first meeting with this team. I believe that Washington, while they do have a nice front seven, I do think their secondary can be a little leaky. And I do think Daniel Jones, Mike Kafka is going to try to stretch the field and make some plays downfield. He's going to try to get back to more creativity, try to get guys open down the field, talking about guys like Richie James, guys like Darius Slayton. Do we have a Kenny Golladay sighting? Nah, at least I hope not. Because if we do, that means things are probably not going our way. 24-20, Big Blue for the win, and that will set them up for a Christmas Eve date with the Paper Tigers, a.k.a. the Minnesota Vikings. That is all I have on this one. Anything you want to add before we get out of here, Zach?
No, it's setting up for a beautiful Christmas Eve. I'll say that. Philly, Dallas, Washington, New York. There's a lot of implications this weekend. I fully expect 3 of the teams will win out of the NFC East, and those 3 teams will be representing the playoffs or representing the NFC East in the playoffs, with the 4th one fighting for that last spot. But we'll see, man. It's great. I love it. It's that time of year. The weather's getting cold. College football is over. Bowl season's about to start. The real football begins, and we've now seen the playoff teams separate themselves from everyone else, and then we have the couple teams still battling in their respective conference. I can't ask for anything more.
Last thing I want to say, the bye week doesn't always do everybody good. I think sometimes the best antidote after getting your ass kicked is getting right back out there, and that's what the Giants are facing right now. We shall see. Whatever the case may be, both these teams should be proud of themselves because they're both playing a meaningful December game where going into the season, neither one of these teams were considered very good. Until next time, I'm Richie. He's Zappy. And not for nothing, I slipped in a sly little remark a couple of shows ago saying how the Texans were going to beat the Cowboys. The fact that almost happened, man, a little wild.
Well, it's the season. Any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday, indeed. If you haven't already, make it a point to check out our YouTube channel and please hit that subscribe button. For my good friend Mike Zappy, who I think's making dinner in the background, I'm Richie. Thank you so much for watching. We are out.